The next time Suddi had any association with Jesus, he was around 17 years old and was once again being taught at Qumran.
Then Zacharias had not returned to the community and was instead with his cousins.
I wasn't sure what that meant. It could be that he was staying with Mary and Joseph in Nazareth, as Jesus' brothers and sisters were also his cousins. I thought that when Jesus received his certificate and left, he would no longer need to take lessons from the Essenes. Suddi confirmed.
This is true, he does not have to. It is actually not so much teaching as it is discussing questions and talking about things. For several years, he left and was on travels but has returned again. He desires instruction in certain questions that he has brought to us. There are questions regarding some of the prophecies and what their meanings are, as well as some interpretations. Many laws are open to interpretation, and we are exploring different viewpoints on these matters, considering one perspective and then evaluating whether it could be understood another way, along with the potential ramifications.
I remarked, "This is good. You are teaching him to think for himself." Suddi nodded.
And to question things, to never take something at face value. He mentioned that in his travels, he noticed that many teachers speak in ways that the people do not understand. He is concerned about this. He believes there must be a way to communicate so that people will truly grasp what you are speaking about. By comparing knowledge to things they know and see in their daily lives, they may better understand the message. He watches nature and sees lessons in the simplest things, things that I could never see.
I asked for an example.
He explained, a plant that grows in a strange way. It will shoot up a single plant from the roots, and other plants can emerge from those same roots. The branches that grow up will bend over, and when they touch the ground again, put down roots and start a new offspring plant. He said this was a good example of a man's cycle of lives. The plant putting up new plants from the roots was like a man going through rebirths. The branches tipping over and creating new plants would be like a man's family and his children, continuing that way while he comes back for new lives and starts new families. He often uses circles in his examples. Another example involved a plant with many layers, similar to an onion. He said this demonstrated the different planes of existence. At the very center of the plant, the layers are thin and close together. If each layer represents a different plane, you can see that the center, where it's smallest and most limited, is like the physical world. As one travels upward and outward through the planes, one's understanding expands each time, revealing and clarifying more. He continued, he observed water as well. He pointed out how a wave could come in from the sea, lap up on the shore, and pick up a bit of debris. When the wave deposits the debris again, it's almost in the same place it was before, but moved slightly. Over time, the debris will gradually travel down the shore, being picked up and placed back down by the waves. He said this is like your cycle of lives. You go through your cycle of life, starting at one point, and when you die, it's like being picked up by the wave and then redeposited in a life. Your spirit is redeposited a little further along the path you are meant to travel. I commented, that makes sense. It also shows how slowly it happens.
Suddi agreed.
Yes, it is a very slow process. One must have much patience and work diligently at it.
Jesus was beginning to develop his concept of parables. I wondered if some of these were still too complicated for the people of his day to understand. These ideas are not mentioned in the Bible, likely because of their reference to reincarnation, which the early church strongly opposed. The parables that are in the Bible show that he continued to simplify his teachings, often using nature as a reference. I asked, does he tend to stick to the letter of the law, or is he rather broad in his interpretation?
He is broad in his interpretation in that he feels love is the only law one must solely abide by. After that, all the others pale into insignificance. We did not teach him this. He came to this conclusion through discussions with his soul, deciding how he feels about certain things. Love cannot be taught, it is something that must just grow. And again, I am not explaining myself very clearly. The only restrictions he spoke of were those concerning harming other human beings and other living beings, to not physically harm other living beings and to try not to mentally harm them either. He knows the power that thought has. If you think something strongly enough, the vibrations sent out will cause it to come to pass, and he is aware of this. It is important not to think evil in your heart.
Where did he go on his travels? I asked.
Where did he not go? He traveled all over most of the world as we know it. It is said that Joseph of Arimathea, his uncle, went with him.
Previously, when I asked Suddi who accompanied Jesus as a child, he said it was his cousin Joseph, although he didn't seem too sure of the relationship. This may not be a contradiction, but an honest mistake. Suddi might not have been too sure how Joseph was related, except that he knew he was a relative of Mary's. From this point in the story onward, he referred to him as Jesus' uncle. Did his mother go with him? I inquired.
During part of the travels, but then she had to stay home with his sisters and brothers. His father stays and goes about his work. He is very much of this world, Joseph. He is a very good man, but he is very practical.
That seems strange, I remarked, to have such a difference between the mother and father.
Why is this strange? It gives a balanced look at things. You have one who is very much living in another dimension and the other who lives in the here and now. It gives him a view of both.
Are any of Ben Joseph's brothers or sisters interested in the same things he is? I asked.
Perhaps not to the great extent that he is. They are in the sense that they love their brother and are interested in the things he is. But he has gone beyond them. Are not all brothers different from one another?
In an earlier session, Suddi had said that before the Messiah was born, his mother was known to the Essenes. I wondered how they knew who she was going to be.
She was chosen by the elders to be instructed, and for her destiny to be made known to her. It was known from her birth who she would be, and her parents were of us.
I had read in an Edgar Cayce book that Mary had been chosen from many other young girls, so I questioned with this in mind, did they choose her from others?
How can we choose the mother of the Messiah? It is not up to us, that is up to Yahweh. But he allowed us to know so that we might instruct her and perhaps guide her upon the path. The elders knew, but they did not choose. It is said that there are others whose charts could possibly have fit, but there was study, and it was decided that this was the only basic decision I can think of that was made. The chart was read, and it was finally understood what was meant. I am not explaining this very well, he admitted.
He admitted. Oh, I think you're doing an excellent job of it, I reassured him. How is the chart made up?
It is said that it has to do with the positions of the stars when you are born and the path they take while you live. But I do not create these, so I know very little about them. The master of this is Bengoliad. I remember when we went to classes to try to teach me to follow the stars. I'm not very good at this. It is not my field of study.
But this was how she was chosen from her chart, I pressed.
You still do not understand. We did not choose her. We were allowed to have the knowledge to find out who she was in order that we might help her along this path. He explained very deliberately, as though speaking to a child. The only thing as far as someone's decision is about the interpretation of these charts. Several girls were born at approximately the same times that it was possible. Therefore, the ultimate interpretation came about. This was when it was discovered that she would be the mother of the Messiah.
I thought it best to drop this topic, so I switched back to Ben Joseph. Do you know what he will do with his life?
Yes, sadly, he is very special. Can you share it?
Can you share it?
It is not for me to share. It will be made known in time, he replied.
Do you think he will travel again?
I have no way of knowing, for now he lives with us. He said that his travels opened his eyes to many things that he was previously blind to. In this, it did great, great good.
Why did he travel to the other countries? I asked.
To learn about the people. It was said that they traded, which they did, but they also did a lot of learning and speaking to people and discovering their views on things and life.
Do you think he might have gone to the religious leaders of the countries?
It is not for me to say. I have not questioned him.
The next mention of Jesus was 5 years later, when I spoke to Suddi, as he journeyed to see his sister in Bethesda prior to her death. Have you had any news lately of Ben Joseph? I asked.
Not very recent, no. It is said that he travels. I do not know. If he returned, it was not for any length of time.
What about Ben Zacharias? Have you heard any news of him?
It is said that he has gone out into the world and is gathering followers.
And he is supposed to be the way shower or the preparer, am I correct?
I did not speak of this to you.
Well, someone did. You don't think you told me about it? I do not remember. Well, I know it is supposed to be a secret, but we aren't going to tell anyone. I suppose he is not ready yet to let the people know.
No, he is gathering followers, knowledge and strength to prepare, Suddi confirmed.